Hi, today is the 19th of June and I'm going to be filming a reading vlog for the book Maratona, which I did a TBR already in my last video. Anyway, so it's the day before the readathons start, but I finished a book yesterday and then I was without anything to read today because I should start reading when the readathon actually starts, but I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw someone who's also doing the readathon already reading a book that they should read on the readathon, so I was like, okay then, I'm gonna do the same. And I started reading Metamorfose from Kafka, and it's quite interesting, let me tell you. I thought it was gonna be really scary. It's not. It's just very weird because the whole concept is, I don't think this is a spoiler. Is it? I don't know. With short books, I don't know. But he wakes up as like this huge, like ugly insect. It has very good words in German also because it's a German book, but like, yeah. And instead of like being scared of himself or whatnot, he's just like very sad that he's late for work. He's very worried that he's like late for work. And I'm like, okay then. If this is your biggest worry right now, like the fact that you're an insect, a huge insect that can't get through the door, that's not a problem. You just gotta get to work. You know, full on Hermione mode. I'm gonna go to bed before either of you come up with another clever idea that could get us killed, or worse, expelled. So, very interesting. First of all, look at the sunset. Doesn't it look beautiful? Second of all, there's some sprints going on Twitter, so I'm reading. It's been an hour, and I think we're gonna read one more hour now. So, yeah. Hello, I'm sitting on the floor in the middle of my mess of books. It is the first day of the readathon, and like yesterday I finished reading the Metamorphosis because I don't know, I stopped to read it and then I got almost to the end, and then right before I went to bed I was like, I'm gonna finish it now because yes, I just really wanted to know what happened. I thought the ending was kind of not the best. I don't know how I would make it better, but I think the whole rest of the story was way more exciting than the ending, and yeah. I understand the ending. I understand why that happens, but I don't like it that much. I don't think it's exciting, you know? Then I started reading Watership Down, which is like a fantasy story, but they're rabbits, which makes everything very cute because if you are like imagining things happen and they're actually like real life size rabbits who are tiny and fluffy, like it's very cute. But at some point it gets like you're done with that. You're just like, okay, you get used to the rabbits being cute rabbits, and then I was kind of like getting bored, but then it got to this part right at the end, like chapter 13, 14 got way more exciting because like they get somewhere and like stuff are happening. That's a huge spoiler, so like cause yeah, it's a spoiler, so I'm not gonna say it, but it got exciting and I want to keep reading it. I was reading for like almost 3 hours, but like probably didn't read like I probably just read like for 2 hours because, you know, we always think we're reading more than we actually are, and then I got to page 100. Yes, I think it's more exciting now, but I'm sure I'm gonna like mix it up and read another book in the middle because, yeah. So we're gonna start a sprint soon, and I'm changing my book because variety, you know. 17 come back tomorrow. I was gonna wake up far too early, then it's fine. So about Watership Down, I've just read, well, not just, some time ago, I've read chapter 17, and then like Kindle, which is the translation, he might be called Fifth in English. He just like gave a whole speech, and I'm like, yes, my child, and it was great. It was incredible. I kind of like already knew that was what was happening in with those other rabbits, but like that made no sense if you haven't read the book. But like if you know what I'm talking about, he gives a whole speech and it's like incredible. Then about Angela Davis, I'm really liking it. First of all, this edition is like incredibly beautiful and it's all pretty and all. Then the first chapter she goes on to describe what people got wrong on their studies about slavery in the USA, and it got me wondering, what was I thought wrong about slavery in Brazil, and like the role of women in like black women when they were enslaved. And yeah, like these things always get me wondering, and like the internet always gets me wondering, like what sort of thing I was not taught correctly in school, just because like we were, it's all kind of manipulated, you know. And yeah, so like study. You know, that always gets me, like I need to read more and study more and listen to people online who are not like people who are getting money from it, or not, you know, mostly not white men. So yes. And then chapter 2, about women, like white women who started like the feminists movements in America, in the USA, them supporting the end of slavery. Really interesting how all that, like I didn't know it happened, but very interesting how all that worked. And yes. In 2 days, but I did read on those 2 days. It's just because I'm in the middle of the books, so if I say anything, it's kind of a spoiler. About Watership Down, I'm quite liking it. At the beginning it was kind of hard, but now I'm very like attached and protective over the characters, and they keep doing dangerous stuff, so I'm just like you know, very protective over them. About Women, Race and Class, I'm quite enjoying it. There's a lot of USA history and things that I don't know. And then I just read a chapter about, it wasn't about voting. It's not titled about voting, but it's about voting. And how black men and then white middle class women wanted to have the right to vote. And like I keep thinking about how the USA puts so much pressure into voting, but like not every citizen has to vote. They can vote if they want to, and then you have to keep doing campaigns for people to vote. I don't know, that's a bit weird for me, because in Brazil everyone just has to vote, and then like then you're sure you have everyone's opinion about voting, because everyone votes, but in the USA now, you gotta, like, I don't know. I don't really understand a lot of things that happen in the USA, and the voting and political system is something I have no idea about. It's up there with Fahrenheit. Anyway, then we run the live stream, and someone mentioned the app Script. I have no idea how you say that. And then I was scrolling through it, and I found, you can't see it, the little book of Heey. Started listening to it. It's about this Danish thing called Heey, which is, I mean, that's like the whole point of the book, is explaining what this thing is, because like you could translate it to like cozy, or you know, but it's like a whole concept, and it's a very important thing in their culture. I'm quite liking it because it's just a simple book, and then I listen to it while I'm doing other things, so multitasking. And yeah, it's a very cozy, simple book. So yesterday I finished Watership Down, and I'm like I really liked it. I think it's one of my favorite books now. I'm really attached to all the characters, and I just love the ending so much because I really like it. It's just an ending that I'm really fond of. Just that kind of everything is a well ending, and just like the last chapter got me crying so much because it's so pretty. I mean, yeah, read this book. Then I finished reading the little book of Heey, and then I picked up another audiobook, which is Tan France's audiobook. He is one of the Fab Five and Queer Eye, and he's my favorite Fab Five, so that's why I picked his book to read before any of the other ones. Because like Karamo and Jonathan also have books that are available on that platform. And like, honestly, what a crazy life. Like, there's some parts that I'm just like, that can't be real. Like, no way. Like, he was a flight attendant, and he lived in the UK his whole life, but he went to New York before going to London. Well, I guess these are spoilers. But like, still, I'm not telling the whole story. So like, I just keep thinking, you have a crazy life. But then, like, he went on to talk about how he met his husband, and how adorable. That was adorable, just the whole thing. And then reading Angela Davis as well. And the last chapter I read was one on like about education and freedom, and I really liked it. I was the whole time just like, yes, this is it. Yes. So I was gonna like go on and explain, and then I was like, this is a spoiler. Although I don't know how much spoilers work with nonfiction, but anyway, that's what I have. Since I filmed, because I'm not reading that much as well. I just don't normally read that much during the weekend, so I'm reading the Christmas books, and I had never read Dickens, so this is my first experience with him straight up like in English and not translated. I really like the way he writes, but I don't understand a lot of it because I'm not used to just Victorian English, I guess. But we're gonna keep fighting, and someday we're gonna be Barnardette Manor. It's okay. But the funny thing is, I do understand Austen in English more than I understand Dickens, and Austen wrote before Dickens. So, I don't know. Is he just posh? And then I don't understand posh? Anyway, A Christmas Carol did know the story because of the Barbie film. Incredible, like, high quality content. and I like it. I quite like it. It's a good story, and the whole theme of this book also apparently is like learning and, you know, lessons and whatnot. So I like A Christmas Carol. So the Chims, I do not understand a lot of it. I think partially because of the language, then partially because it seems like a very random story for me. So then at the end, that's a spoiler, but he pulls an Alice in Wonderland in the thing. And I'm like, oh, well, that explains a lot, because I was not understanding that whole part that he, like, goes up to the bells. So it's Sunday and the readathon is over. I really like the live streams that they did yesterday. It was really fun to be up until like 3 in the morning today, talking and all that. I'm going to talk about the last book that I finished, which is the Christmas stories, the Christmas books, and then I'm going to do kind of a wrap up and say what I thought about the readathon. I had talked about the second story, which I thought was very confusing, and then I read The Cricket on the Hearth, and I thought it was much better, and I liked it much better than the other ones, so the last one was my favorite. The notes I have for it are, because it's been like 2 days since I finished it, it was the last Christmassy, which is not a thing that I would expect. I like Christmas and I like the whole Christmas vibe, but the last one was last Christmassy and was my favorite. Then it had a plot twist, kind of like Sense and Sensibility from Jane Austen, which I quite liked at the end. The narrator is amazing, because I think that is also for all the stories, but yeah. I wrote down something I should read. So the narrator is super funny, because he really just gets into the story as if you're talking to a person, not just someone who shouldn't interfere in the story. And I think that's cool. I like that. So almost last page of the book, and it says, an ode Dot, so to call Dot's father. I forgot it wasn't his right name, but never mind. So it like just gets into the story and talks about things. And then at the beginning of the last story, it goes into a really long and description of like the cricket and the fire and the place they're in. It was one of the things I like about Dickens, is that he's very descriptive on the things and places and all that. So I had 5 books on my TBR, and I ended up reading 4 full books, and I got to half of 2 other books. Lord of the Rings was the one that was on my TBR and I ended up not reading, which I think was actually good, because I want to start reading it in a time in which I'm in a place which I can read all 3 of them following, or else I'll like get confused. So it's good that I didn't read it now. Also, I'm going to try and put like the ratings I gave on Goodreads for each one of those. Then the first book I finished before the readathon even started, because I'm a mess. The Metamorphoses by Franz Kafka. Then I read Watership Down, which I really liked. And then I finished, after those 2, I finished The Little Book of Heey through an audiobook. And the thing about that book is that I had read negative reviews about it after I finished reading it. But I keep thinking back at it and things that it mentioned. So I think it was a great book for me, even though a bunch of people thought it wasn't good. Then, as I said, I finished reading the Christmas books. And the books I started but didn't finish were Women Racing Class by Angela Davis, which I got to half of it. And I think it's just a book that takes more time to read and I read a little bit of it every day. So it's not because I didn't like it or anything. It is a book that is showing me very different ways of like activism and movements, and how things are not just, you know, you can't just be a feminist and defend women. You have to think about how things work when it comes to class and when it comes to race. So it's the title of the book, but it truly is just shows us that you can't think of just one of the things, and it shows people in history who have done that, and that wasn't really good at that time. So, and I think that's the thing that our newer generations are trying to do, which is to not only choose one fight to fight, is to just be aware of everything that is happening, and you know, to be respectful and fight for all the causes. And yeah, so I think that's a really important thing. If you are interested in those kind of things when it comes to activism and movements, I think that's a great book for you to read. Even though I didn't get to the end of it, I can say that already. Another thing I think this book does very well is that it corrects some mistakes that have been done in the past when talking about these issues, like that historians didn't do well. So for example, researchers and historians have looked at slavery and thought of it as white people and black people, and then didn't think of it as like gender or like, you know, different things like that. And it's a great way to correct those mistakes that have been done when talking about or like telling history, you know. I think these kind of books are essential for us who care about history and who think history is an important thing. And yeah, because in school we don't learn all of that. We must now correct the mistakes that have been done and talk about all those people who were not talked about in classrooms, and then go on to talk about them in classrooms. And the last book that I got to half of it was Tan France's book, Naturally Tan. That's the name of it. I got to half of it because I'm listening to it in an audiobook, and I always have to be doing something else while listening to the audiobook, or else I can't pay attention to it, and then I have nothing to do. So, you know, I just ended up not reading it more, so I must finish it. I think I've talked enough about it already in this video, so yeah. About the readathon and the sprints and everything, I thought they were so great. Seeing other YouTubers doing it all together as well gives you a lot of motivation. In my experience, I was very excited in the first week, and then second week it was just not happening. I was not reading much. I was also not taking part in the lives and the sprints and all that. But I think that's just me. I don't know. But I noticed that like on like yesterday, which was the last day, everyone was just like, I don't want to read anymore. Like, I'm done. Which is good as well. I think everyone that I saw managed to read a good amount of books, or more than they normally read. So, yeah. I'm gonna leave some pictures of some screenshots I took of the live streams. Thank you for watching.